turn to Matthew 28. Matthew chapter 28. We're going to be in verses 18 through 20 this morning. And as you do that, I want you just to imagine a general, right? There's a general. There's a helicopter behind him. The helicopter blades are whirring. He's about to get on this helicopter. And the general is telling the whole gathered group of lieutenants what the mission is, right? And he has to shout over the helicopter blades, "Here's the mission. Make sure you do this. I gotta go." And he gets on the helicopter and he goes. Gave the mission and off he goes. And that is kind of the picture that we get from the end of Matthew here. After all the miracles that Christ has done, after the parables, after the teaching, after the fulfilled prophecy, after the crucifixion and the resurrection, after Matthew gives us this after dramatic, climactic, after the crucifixion and the resurrection, before Jesus. After Matthew gives us this after dramatic, climactic, after the crucifixion and the resurrection, before Jesus. That Matthew gives us this clarity. I need to hear it from the general. Last thing, then period, end of Matthew's gospel. I need that kind of strategic clarity because my heart can get pulled in all kinds of different directions with good things to do. There are all kinds of good things to do. Let's go do this good thing. And hey, let's get together and go do that good thing. And that's all great, good things, right? And hey, let's get together and go do that good thing. And make disciples. All great, good things, that's right? The mission. In fact, we're going to be referring back to that good thing for a while this morning, so we'll might as well just practice good things, right? What's the mission? And you say, we're going to be referring back to what's the mission? Make disciples. For a while this morning, so we might as well just practice good things. You know that? And they stayed strong, by the way, throughout the whole morning. That's the mission. Make disciples. The mission is to increase and multiply disciples. Let's read in Matthew 28, verses 18 through 20. The mission is to increase and Jesus came disciples and said to them. Let's read in Matthew 28. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. And Jesus came therefore and said to them. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. That's it. He gives them the mission. What's the mission? Make disciples. And he also tells us right off the bat a little bit about how. About how. Right? Increase and multiply disciples in faith. In faith. By faith, I mean, do you notice how Christ emphasizes the trust his people should have in the power and presence, his power and presence, as they engage the mission? Right? He starts, you see the sandwich there? You see the sandwich? Right? Starts in verse 18. He says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. And he closes it up with, therefore I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So Christ intends us to engage this mission in faith in his power and his presence. When he says all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me, he is echoing Daniel chapter 7, right? A passage that all of the disciples would have been familiar with. In Daniel chapter 7, the prophet tells us about the Son of Man, the eternal King. He says, to him was given dominion and glory and kingship, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. This is an everlasting, indestructible kingship. And this is Christ's kingship. You think about it, Matthew's been setting us up for this. right? He starts with the genealogy. Matthew starts with the kingly genealogy of Christ, right, of the Davidic king. And then he shows how King Herod is so scared that somebody's going to come in and like knock him off of, his little hill territory there, right? The Magi show up. They're like, where is the King of the Jews? All of Christ's claims to kingship are just mocked and spit upon. And now finally, Christ has died for his people. He has risen from the dead. And he says, that kingship is like this. It is indestructible and it is everlasting. I am the King of kings. And now Herod's little thing just seems so provincial, right? All the mockery of Jesus' kingship is absurd all itself. And he stands saying, I am the King of kings. Now make disciples backed by my authority. And he says, behold, I'm with you to the end of the age. Right? The everlasting, indestructible King is with you, is commissioning you and going with you. So our little example of the general taking off on the helicopter, that's right in a sense. But then Christ also says, I, the risen Christ, will be with you, and my Spirit will be with you as you do this. Just like when he commissioned Moses and said, go. And Moses says, well, if you don't go with me, if you don't go with us, we don't want to go. As he told Joshua, don't be afraid, go, I will be with you. And now, same God says, go, make disciples, I will be with you. Don't be afraid. Not only that, but Christ has already said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it. Right? I will build my church. So he sends us to make disciples, yet he's the only one who can actually do it. Listen, this is super important. Super important. Who makes disciples, you or Jesus? Yes. Yeah. So, listen, that's more than a trick question. It's that we have to understand we are engaged in something that is supernatural. No disciple is ever made. No growth in a disciple, not even an inch, is made without the supernatural work of God in that life. And so you are being asked to engage in something that is completely supernatural. You're being asked to engage in something that only He can do, but you can be an instrument of. That you would be a clean, sharp scalpel in the hand of the surgeon who actually gets it done. Engage this mission confident in the power and the presence of Christ. That's the only way to do it. We increase and multiply disciples in faith. Now, there's something else about this passage that helps us understand our mission, or rather, the priority of it. We increase and multiply disciples with focus. We increase and multiply disciples with focus. Right? There's a reason why theologians call this the Great Commission. This is the last thing Matthew gives us. It says, Jesus came and spoke and said this thing. There's one imperative command, which is what? Make disciples. Everything else is a participle in this instruction. You know what a participle is? Like it's a verb that's just sort of connected to the imperative, right? Make disciples. Baptizing them, it's part of it, right? Make disciples. Teaching them, that's part of it. Make disciples. Even the go there, in English, the translation looks imperative. Go make disciples. But it's really just another participle. As you go. Going, make disciples. This is set apart from everything else that Jesus has taught. Now, after his resurrection, he gathers the leaders of his people as a group, and he gives them this formal commission, and that's Matthew's jumping off point. Here's another way to say it. We articulate, here, you grab that booklet, right there on the very back page. I've circled mine in Sharpie. Yeah? Right there on the very back page it says this: lost people saved, saved people matured, mature people multiplied, all to the glory of God. That's a way of articulating this mission right here lived out. Right? Lost people saved. That is, disciples made and baptized, demonstrating their conversion from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. It's lost people saved. But not only that, it's also saved people matured, right? Teaching them to obey all that I have commanded you, right? It's not just decisions for Christ. It's making disciples. And once those disciples are made, they're also given that commission, right? Every disciple gets this commission. Go make disciples. It's mature people multiplied, all to the glory of God. That's this whole commission. This is the mission walked out, looks like this. That's our focus. That's our focus. I hope that that's clear. And one good question is, why is focus on the mission important? Why is focus on the mission important? Because there are all kinds of good things to do in the world, right? More than we can even list. There are wells to dig. There are kids to foster and adopt. There are heart surgeries to sponsor. There are people to feed and clothe. Why, then, is make disciples the mission? Why is this mission the mission? Well, two really important reasons. One is this is an eternal matter. This is an eternal matter. When we make disciples, we make a difference for all eternity. That is huge. We transfer people by the power of the Spirit through His work, by His grace. We transfer people from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light forever.